There we go. And good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ballroom Chat. I am your host, Samantha with Love.Live.Dance. And today I am joined by Hope Jackson. She is a professional Latin dancer, coach, and instructor. She is a brand ambassador for Aida Dancewear. You might recognize her from 2 seasons on So You Think You Can Dance, as well as Dancing with the Stars collegiate competition. She is a model, she is a mother, she is a hair and makeup artist, and she recently became a Dance Vision instructor. So please help me welcome Hope Jackson to the show.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Samantha. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks for being on. I'm excited to chat with you. So I like to ask every guest that I have on kind of the same standard question to start, which is, how did you get your start in the dance industry?
Well, I started in the social dance program, actually, because in Utah, all the schools have a social dance class, and you can take it instead of PE credit. And at the time, I was an elite level gymnast. And so to be in school and have a PE class, for me just felt really like overkill when I would leave school and then go straight to, gymnastics for 5 hours anyway, 5 days a week. So after talking it over with my mom, she kind of looked into the school options and she said, well, you can take a dance class as an elective. And so I took a social dance class in 7th grade. And, a couple, semesters of that, I was having a lot of fun. One of the requirements was to compete at the national competition at BYU.
Oh, wow.
And I was just hooked. I mean, we competed. I think I took 6th place in the newcomer swing division. And I just had so much fun. And watching all the other competitors, I was just like, I have to do more of this. So the rest is history.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So dance through middle and presumably high school. And then at some point you were given a dancing scholarship to UVU. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So after that first semester in 7th grade, I decided to join the team in high school. So the high school I was at had a performing team, ballroom performing team. And it was, one class during the school day and then an after school program as well. And I did that for a semester, and then I took a semester break and I was a cheerleader, and I did back and forth for like a year and a half before I just full on committed to doing ballroom. And then, at some point, my junior year, I wanted to do concurrent enrollment at my local university rather than just finishing at my public high school. So I went to a charter school to finish high school. And during that time, I did concurrent enrollment working on my associate degree. And because I was technically enrolled as a college student, as well as a high school student, I could join the team. And so I started on the backup team, just commitment-wise. I knew that would be better for me, and I had a great experience with Chris Witt, and I decided the next year to audition for a scholarship, and I was awarded a 4-year scholarship for the UVU tour team.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And for those that maybe aren't familiar, when we refer to UVU, we're talking about Utah Valley University. It is one of 2 very large universities in Utah County, Utah, that have actual ballroom programs. They compete globally, internationally. Am I correct in thinking that you've been to Blackpool a couple of times, and maybe there was some Asia competitions in there as well?
That's right. Yeah. So UVU, Utah Valley University, was a great experience for me because my time there, I went to Dancing with the Stars twice and performed on national television. And then we went to Blackpool, just the once I went to Blackpool, but it was the same year as all the Dancing with the Stars opportunities as well. And we took 4th there for our formation Latin team. And I think our standard team as well took 4th. And then actually I graduated, and the following year they went to China.
Oh, okay. Missed it by 1 year.
Yeah. I was okay at that point. I was like, I've done enough. I've seen enough. Enjoy your China trip.
Fair enough. Yeah, because I can imagine that traveling with a team can also be incredibly stressful. I would believe, because you're dealing not only with jet lag, you're also dealing with the stress of preparing for a competition and all of those different personalities because you're on a formation team. That has to be a very unique experience.
It's really fascinating, actually, because I look back and my team experience as an adult was so rewarding and, like you said, challenging, because essentially we're acting as professionals, but a lot of us are young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of us, it's our first team experience. So like, even though I did team in high school, because I grew up in Utah, there was kids who were from Jersey or from Russia who had never danced on a team before. And so, yeah, we have to travel with all of our lights, with all of our props, with all of our costumes, and, 8 standard dresses are really heavy. And all of us have this role, to not only fly with them, but also, we have to bus around Europe with them, and they have to stay in people's rooms. And if you've ever been in a hotel room in Europe, you know that a large suitcase takes up most of your room. So yeah, definitely a lot of tension, but I love working on a team because you really get to see people like give their all. And I think in life, you don't get that very often. You see somebody just like really trying. So for me, it was very enlightening, very rewarding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's those life moments that you look back later and go, wow, that really shaped who I am today and how I think about things. So that's fantastic. So you brought up Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the intro that you were a performer on So You Think You Can Dance seasons 9 and 14. So Dancing with the Stars, that was related to their collegiate competition. And am I correct in thinking that they took the top 4 teams from Ohio Star Ball that year and then invited them to be on the show? Or was there a different process involved?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure of the process, to be honest. This is what I know. So at the time, the tour team was under the direction of Scott Asbell. And I think essentially they had called, Dancing with the Stars had this production idea to host this competition for the formation teams. And I think they might have picked them from Ohio Star Ball, but our team had actually never been to compete at Ohio Star Ball. Our backup team always does. So I think they might have gotten word that we did have a team and they contacted us that way. But yeah, they called Scott and they said, we're interested, please send us an audition tape. And so we, as dancers on team, actually had to audition to be on the audition tape.
Oh, wow.
And so he said, if you're interested on being on this team, bring your best, show me, kind of 30 seconds of an audition. And so, after we auditioned and he picked the ones he wanted to audition for the position, they called us back and said, yeah, we want to pick you. And we have 3 other teams. And one of them, I think, was Rutgers University, Purdue University, and I think it was another West Coast California team. And we went and did kind of like an elimination. So we went against one team, and then the winner would, move up in the bracket. And it was just super awesome. I'd never done anything like that before. I'd been on local TV with formation teams and stuff, but this was totally different because they take care of everything. They fly you out, they feed you, you're on set, you have to do lighting check. And we've all seen the show. So as 18, 19, 20-year-olds, it was pretty nerve-wracking, but also really exciting.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So just kind of my personal tie to all of this craziness. So the semester that you guys did, I guess it was in the spring semester, that you were on the show. That was my year anniversary with being on my collegiate ballroom team. And because of that section that they did, because they brought on the colleges and did formations, and we had competed against some of the other schools at Ohio Star Ball, we decided for the first year to put together a Latin formation team because our coach was like, maybe if we do it and maybe if we do it well, we'll be asked next year. Of course, they never did it again. But
That's the wonderful thing about it, though, is it's when you have an opportunity like that, then you have choices and more people, come together and create. I love that. That's
absolutely.
cool.
And it was a big push, at least for our collegiate program, to really think about, okay, is the formation idea something that we want to do, because we had never done it before. So it was just
Right.
fun to see kind of how all of that links up. So what was your biggest, I guess, either challenge or best memory being part of the So You Think You Can Dance experience? What was kind of the best or the worst? And I'll let you kind of decide which way you want to go with it.
Yeah, that's really interesting question. It's a full disclosure for me. So you think you can dance. So I went to Vegas week the first season, and then the second time I went, it was Academy week at that point, right? Because they were no longer in Vegas. The first time I auditioned with my husband, Trey Jackson. And I was so full of like this young confidence. I really thought that there's no way that I'm not going to make it. And I was nervous and I had no experience, and all these other styles I had been exposed to, but I wasn't necessarily a high level dancer as far as the cross training went. The experience was grueling the first time, for me in particular, because I was not sure what to expect. And I think the show does that on purpose. The producers are in charge and they wake you up early, they keep you late. You never know what's coming next because they really want to catch you, in a surprise moment. It's all about the element of surprise. And I love performing. So for me, probably the best part of the experience in the moment was being able to be on stage dancing with my husband. That was an amazing feeling. Then being in Vegas week, I actually was cut Vegas week in the ballroom category. And I laugh about it now, but you can imagine how I felt at the time. And I remember the director, the producer who cut me, they're all sitting there, right? All the judges. But the one who was actually speaking to me hosts a show called Burn the Floor. I think it's Burn the Floor or Ballroom with a Twist. But anyway, he said to me, "It's good, but not good enough." And I was excused, right? And I just thought, oh my God, did this really just happen? I was in shock, because I was so young, and I just thought there's no way I could get cut. But if I get cut, I was sure it was going to be in hip hop, and that was the first day. So I'm like, I got this, And then my husband, he was in the group right before, and his partner, because we weren't allowed to dance together, right? They told her, they were like, "You were the best girl out there." And for some reason, I just remember it feeling so personal, but I had never auditioned like that at a high level. I started dancing really late, and I had never really auditioned for anything before in my life. This was like my first big audition. So I went home and I was completely crushed, just devastated. And honestly, that's probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me. That's probably the best thing that came out of that whole experience. I mean, it was so fun looking back, but I remember just feeling so devastated, and then having to, in later months and years to come, work through that and analyze why it mattered so much, and look back and think what I would have done different, not in like a regretful way, but in like a, when this happens again, because it's going to happen again, how will I show up, and it really shaped like my whole career now. And so if that hadn't happened to me as a young dancer, I wouldn't be anywhere I am now. So I'm grateful for that experience. And then the second time around when I went, I wasn't actually going to audition, because I had kind of told myself the experience the first time being on set, where they wake you up at 5:30 for the call time, and then you never really start till 10 a.m. or whatever. I was just like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I had this kind of idea that I wanted to be on Dancing with the Stars as a professional, and then after being on set, I was like, I don't think I could live that life where you're just kind of always hurry up and then wait. And so I had decided I'm not going to audition, but I went with my pro-am student to partner him, and they looked right at him and they said, well, they looked at a couple before us and they said, okay, if you guys aren't both auditioning, we're not going to take one of you. So all the ballroom people, you better both audition or else you have no shot. And I'm here with my student who is so talented and worthy to be on the show. I mean, really, he should have made the show. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided, okay, fine, I'll audition. Because at this point, I have nothing to lose. I've been here before, And it was much better the second time around. They were a lot more gentle. There was no real harsh criticism like the first time. And so I think the show kind of had evolved to have a better interaction with the dancers. Mm-hmm. But it's always fun to be on that stage, regardless. Fun to be on stage and to see the talent. I remember just sitting in the stands and watching actually so many fantastic dancers get cut and excused from the show. And I was like, if they're not going to make it, then,
yeah.
So many amazing, inspiring dancers. That was a really cool part about it too.
Well, and you wonder too, first and foremost, it's a TV show, right? So
yeah.
From a casting perspective, from a producing perspective, it's through the lens of what is going to be interesting and intriguing to watch on television. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the highest quality of dancers. It's who is going to perform well in front of the audience and the framework that they're creating for themselves. I think it's interesting. Go ahead.
I was gonna chime in because it's true, and the producers actually were really upfront about that. They would say, like, you guys are all good dancers, that's why you're here. But why should we pick you? We want to know your story. We want to see your vulnerability. Like, a lot of people go home. Like, they're very upfront about that, which I think was, looking back, really interesting. And then after I got cut, my teacher said to me, well, she was like, Hope, you're not very commercial. At the time I had like white hair and it was like shaved and you know what I mean? Like I was a little different. And I remember thinking like, well then if, I'm not going to change just to have this opportunity. And that's like the young rebel in me, Now I'm like, yeah, I do that all the time. I fit whatever because I'm here just to create. But at the time I remember feeling like, yeah, if they need one kind of person and I'm not it, then what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good, obviously you've taken that lesson and have run with it. I feel like for young dancers or young performers coming up, biggest thing when it comes to casting decisions, it is very rarely about you and your ability, and it's very much about what the director or the producer or the casting director is looking for, and that has nothing to do with who you are as a person. It has to do with, like you said, your look. Do you look too edgy? Do we want to move more commercial? Are you too tall? Are you too short? Are you too curvy? Are you too thin? Like, it's what they have in their mind for the part that they're looking for, and you take whatever feedback or whatever lessons you can learn and move on and decide whether or not you want to hold on to that information or whether you want to put it elsewhere.
Right.
We've got a couple people in chat. Hello, chat. So Morgan Whistle, I believe, it says, I'm here. Hello, Hope. We've got Dance Vision. We've got Dance Vision in the chat. Excellent. We are going to talk all about Dance Vision here in a little bit. Pat Hansen says hello. And then Matthew says, the average viewer probably can't tell who is really a great dancer. They can certainly tell who brings drama and attitude, though. Yeah, I think that also with some of the reality TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Who has a compelling story that they need to tell, or who's the will they won't they couple of the year. Yeah.
Well, and to be fair, I have a lot of friends that have made it for like very far on the show who are also very talented and absolutely deserved it. But they did have something special, like an all around package where, it really worked to progress in the show. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at your season, season 9, I should say, I was quickly scrolling through to remind myself who was on that season. And you had Whitney Carson come out of that season, Lindsay Arnold, both of them have gone on to Dancing with the Stars, Nick Bloxham Carter, who's also a Utah native. So there's obviously a huge Utah component to these shows as well. Did they specifically reach out at the university or the high school level for ballroom dancers in Utah, or did it just happen that everybody tried out for it?
both, but I know that they specifically did reach out through the colleges and high schools, because what happens in Utah is all the little kids, because there are so many kids, there's so many programs to be after school or during school, a lot of the kids are cross-trained at a young level. So I know specifically like Lindsay and Whitney, I worked at the Vibe, which is the studio we all danced at with Rick Robinson. And they were brought up being cross-trained, music lessons, jazz, ballet, tap, ballroom. And so they had already this kind of experience, auditioning, being on stage. And a lot of the kids do. I mean, it's an amazing hotbed for talent because it's the norm there. All the kids go through these programs. And I know in particular, these girls, beautiful people inside and out, and they'd worked with some of the judges before. I mean, like, I think Nigel had a show called, it was like a fairy tale show that the girls had done when they were little. And so, they're familiar with the people in the industry already. And the dance world is really small. That's what makes it so fun, is that you can know some of your idols, like, in real life, and you grow up with them. And then Utah, of course, has a great environment because it's a religious environment. So a lot of the kids are very, I don't know how to say it, they have good manners. They don't have to worry about these kids getting in trouble or having a rough, they're not worried about them being on air. You know what I mean? Because they're good kids.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, kind of taking some of the lessons that you learned through the audition process, how did you then apply those, or did you apply them, I guess I should say, to the modeling career that you have now, the performing aspect that you are continuing to do as a dancer, all of your lovely hair and makeup artistry, like from moving to more from that like edgy look that you were talking about in your first season to now a little bit more commercial, or, opening it up to be a little bit more multifaceted, shall we say. How do you see those two interlocking?
Yeah, I think I kind of experienced everything a little out of order, which I don't know if there is an order, but for me, it was like I had this huge national television audition opportunity, and I'd never done an audition before in my life. And I had started dancing competitively as a 16-year-old in the amateur Latin division. And so I never had a junior youth. I did that one newcomer event, and then it was like 3 years later, I was doing 5 dance championship level, And so I always kind of felt like I was playing catch up. I never really knew what I was doing. And then the same year that we went to Dancing with the Stars, of course, on set, they do your hair and makeup. And I had already been fascinated with this glam life since I was a little girl. I mean, I love it. I'll try any hairstyle. I love to mess around with the makeup and play. I remember watching a Miss America pageant. I was probably like 5 years old, and just looking at their eyes and being like, how do they make them look like that? Like from an artistic point of view. And then staring at my sisters as they do their eyeliner, like, how do they do that? And then when we went to Blackpool, the same year that we were on Dancing with the Stars with the UVU team, I did the makeup for the team. I don't even know how it happened. I just kind of like had some gear, and I was like, can I try this on you? And then the director, Scott Asbell at the time, was like, let's do that look. And so then it was my first time doing dance makeup for like a competition. 8 dancers, they all had to look the same. And looking back, it's probably one of my favorite, best looks. And it was the first time I'd ever done it. So it was kind of like, I've always just kind of felt like I've just been thrown in and like, okay, are you going to sink or swim? And I've totally sank at times. But then when I sink to a spot, it's like I figure out how to kind of like live there for a while until I can figure it out. But absolutely, like being cut from So You Think You Can Dance was so intriguing. At the same time, it was devastating, because I was picked up by a modeling agency a year or 2 after, and they were friends with my sister, and she kind of like, the lady who ran the agency reached out to my sister who was working with her at the time and was like, does your sister want to come in and get headshots? We have a photographer. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great, because as a performer, you always need stuff like that. Even if you're not really actively working, people just want, stuff. And I've been teaching already and just doing my competitive stuff still. And so I showed up, and she convinced me to sign with her. And then I got some commercial jobs because actually of my look. I had like this short kind of brown bob with like bangs, and it was very marketable because it looked versatile. I could be any age, any ethnicity. And I worked for a Marriott commercial, and then later, Hallmark with another group. I was dancing because, as a dancer, I could get some work. So anyway, it did wind up kind of like pushing me that direction. And I'm not really sure how that happened, but I have this theory now that I've come to understand where it's like, if you need to go east, you just start walking east. And before you know it, there's somebody passing you that's heading east too. And they're like, do you want to ride? And then that's kind of what happened. It was like I auditioned for the show, got cut. And then I met a bunch of people that also were kind of still going that direction. And so I just kind of got pushed along. And that's honestly been my whole dance career. It's been amazing to look back at it because it's like I can flex so many different muscles in this industry. And it's been so enjoyable to see kind of like what my deficiencies are and what my strengths are and where I like to create and where I kind of fall short. And I don't know if that answered your question, but
No,
I've enjoyed the process.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And something that I want to kind of hit on there is this idea of, in improv, we say yes and. In the dance world, I feel like one of the responsibilities of the follow is to be open and receptive, and then to take whatever the lead is giving you and build on it and create something beautiful to live in that moment. I think from a career perspective, you're talking about just that, being open and flexible to the yes and say, okay, I thought I was going through this door. That didn't look like that was the path for me. So I'm just going to keep walking and see what else comes along, and then say yes to that and see where that takes me. So I think that's great. And I think that's a good mindset, especially for young dancers in the industry or young performers in general, to take, is just be open, have a plan, but plans change and adapt and completely redirect at certain times.
Absolutely. And I love that you said, hearing you talk about that gave me chills because I didn't have that clarity of sight when I was in it. But it's true, like young dancers, I always kind of think to myself now, like if I could say anything to myself back then, it would just be like, stick to your stuff. If you're a dancer, then just be dancing because you're going to have more options when you're just working on your craft. Like you said, like one door is going to close, but see if it'll still open. Like give yourself more tries. I had that one audition where I got cut, and in the moment, I just thought, oh, I'm never going to do this again. This is a horrible feeling. And then what wound up happening is I did it a ton more times. Like I kept doing it, and I don't know if I'm just like glutton for punishment, but I love that now. I love that feeling of people being like, no, and I'm like, well, watch me do it twice, and I'll take pictures. Like I'm going to do it. So yeah, I think that's so accurate.
Awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about both Dance Vision and Aida. We'll start with Aida. So you are a brand ambassador for Aida Dancewear. If you are listening to this podcast and you're not familiar with them, please look them up, AIDA. They have some of the best shoes in the industry. Not that other brands aren't fantastic. There are many shoe brands that are great, but I feel like, at least from a marketing perspective, Aida has done really well. So how did all of that come about? How did you partner up with Aida?
Oh yeah. So as a teacher, I have the responsibility of helping my students, be better dancers. And so like you said, Aida is just the type of shoe that you can put a brand new dancer in, you can put a competitive dancer in. It's totally handmade, customizable. So if I have a dancer with really narrow feet or really wide foot, Ilya is my man there at Aida, and I literally just have him in my cell phone. I could just call him and be like, can I send you a picture of this girl's foot? He's probably got 1,000 foot pictures. And he's able to help me out. And so as a teacher, there was one point, I had my own studio in Utah for a while, and I would order probably 10 pairs of shoes from Aida like every 2 months. And so we just got a good relationship, and then he's always vending at the competitions. And so he's a young guy, he's a fun guy. We became friends pretty fast because he's a great marketer and I have a degree in communication. So it's always fun to talk to another professional, right?
Mhm.
And then it just kind of happened that I always had this desire to be an ambassador because that's one of the things I like to do actually is promote brands and people that have this passion for whatever it is they're doing. I like to be around creative people. And so he reached out to me and just said, "Hi, do you need anything? Can I help you with anything?" And at the time, I had moved to California from Utah. I still teach, but not at the level I was. I don't have my own studio. So I was like, you know what? No, but how can I help you? Because, we're friends. And we just kind of got talking back and forth. And before I knew it, it was like, he was like, "Okay, I'm going to send you a free pair of shoes. You're going to be an ambassador, create content. Thanks for the conversation." And I was like, what just happened? But I wasn't going to, question it. I was just like, "Yes, sir, you got it. Like, let's do this thing." And so it just kind of started from there. And for me, it's a great fit because I love to create content. It's just fun for me. And the shoes I love because I'm a footwork person. Like I started late and I just remember the dancers I enjoyed watching the most were the ones that had such articulation and the foot just had this mobility. And I just thought to myself, like, that is what makes a good ballroom dancer is your feet. And so for me, I have kind of this obsession with feet, I guess, and shoes. So it's a great combo.
There you go. There you go. Well, and I feel like so I've been watching your stuff on Instagram for a while. I feel like a lot of the original content when you first started working with Aida was exactly that. I'm in my shoes, I'm doing my footwork, I'm doing practice, or I'm doing swivel drills, and it was kind of that like, okay, I'm going to show the shoe at work. Last week or this weekend, you posted a video about how to break in the shoe. So was it a conscious
Yeah.
decision for you to switch to more of like the this is how these are tips or tricks if you are going to be a shoe owner, how to make the shoes work for you?
Yeah, I had kind of this idea because Aida had asked everybody to create a commercial about why you love Aida. And before I was ever an ambassador, I would buy the shoes. And for me, they're the longest lasting. And I really beat mine up. And I have to really break mine in also because my foot is unique. I have a wider foot, it's more muscular. I really want to be able to work through it. I always get blisters. So, anyway, the commercial I created, one of like the little clips I added was me treating my blisters because I get crazy blisters in new shoes, like the first 2 days. And I've kind of figured that out now. It's more the fit, and luckily Ilya's been able to help me at Aida kind of get the best fit. But I just thought to myself, there's a lot of dancers where it's uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Even you can have a great comfy shoe, but when you're in it for 5 hours trying to practice, how can we make this perfect straight out the gate? And as a gymnast, we have this process with our grips, like on the bars. And so I've been treating leather for a long time. So even when I was little, I would soak my leather grips and rewrap them and same kind of thing. And so I started doing it with my shoes. And I didn't really know anybody else that did it, but I had somebody actually reach out to me when I posted the commercial and say, how can I make the shoes more comfortable? And so I just thought, I'm just going to make something. And after I posted it, the Aida team actually reached out to me. They were like, "Can you send us the original video? Like, so we can post it too." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." And it's been really fun to work with them because they kind of just let me do whatever I want, and then we just kind of work together. So it's been fun.
That's the best. That's the best business relationship to have. Is
Yeah.
yeah, and something that I took away from that, which is interesting, you wet down the leather, correct? As part of that
Yeah.
process. That is something that I have been told my entire dance career, like don't put water near your suede shoes because it will ruin it. So it was so fascinating that you're like, yeah, no, this is how you break them in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm not like a shoe expert, right? But growing up doing gymnastics, if the leather is dry, it's stiff, but when
Mhm.
it's wet, it's malleable. And then when you're working into it continuously, you're shaping it, right? So I just learned it from gymnastics. We wet our grips and then we chalk them. And so for the dance shoes, I was just like, what do I have to lose? I mean, $200, but I have to buy a new pair eventually anyway. And I mean, I've danced on shoes before that were broken, slick, missing a heel. So to me, it's like I'd rather experiment than play it safe. But I mean, I'm nervous now to be like, do it this way because it'll work. And somebody be like, I just wasted $220 ruining my shoes. But for me, it's always worked.
Yeah.
So that's all I can do, right?
No, absolutely. And that's one of those, like, if you are willing to experiment and play with it, you might find a fantastic way to do that. And clearly you have. So no, I think it's fantastic when you are willing to break with conventional wisdom to be like, all right, what's the worst that's going to happen? Oh, this actually broke in my shoe. Fantastic. Now I've got, comfy feet. Yeah.
Yeah. That's always been my kind of like go-to. I'm that way too.
I like it. So let's talk now about Dance Vision. So I've mentioned Dance Vision and DWTS a couple of times on this podcast. They are the curriculum that I like to use and rely on most with my students. Because of quarantine and just because they tend to work more in the digital space to begin with, we're seeing a whole lot more online content come out of Dance Vision. This month, or at least last week, they did a full slate of online courses, and you had a stretch and conditioning class that was in the mornings, Monday through Friday. So what was the process like becoming a teacher for Dance Vision, and what do you kind of see as your role within that family of instructors?
Yeah, for me, I feel like so blessed because it just took me by surprise. And I look back and I realize that it's actually a lot of my hard work that got me here, but to me, it's just like such a surprising blessing. I know Wayne, obviously, who owns Dance Vision and DWTS, and runs a couple competitions. And I too tested as an instructor with DWTS years ago. Me and Trey got our certification to teach through DWTS. And so we're obviously familiar with that. And I always just kind of had this like hope in my heart that I would one day create for Dance Vision, because it is like the standard in my mind. And I think to a lot of ballroom people for how to learn, the syllabus. And so I had gotten an opportunity to teach when I first moved to California at a great studio called the Bray Space. They produce some of the most amazing jazz, modern lyrical dancers, and they have a ballroom class. And Lacey Schwimmer called me and said, I usually teach it, but I can't be there. Can you substitute for me? Didn't even know she had my number. So I showed up to teach, and they do all their own in-house filming, and they had filmed the segment. And so they had given it to me and I posted it. And Morgan at Dance Vision reached out to me and said, this is really beautiful. I would love to do something with you in the future. I work for Dance Vision. And I was just kind of like, okay. And I met her at California Open, and she's a beautiful person. And the more I started working with the company, just kind of like doing the live for their social media during quarantine when we were all shut down, it taught me a lot. They were really responsive, and just the way their whole company works as a whole. Wayne, Jason, Ariana, Morgan, Ashley, Rosie, they're all just so conscious. Working with Sean, who's helped me now with the past week, they're all so kind. They all care so much about not only what they're doing, but about people. And they've taught me so much when it comes to teaching classes and just how to connect and how to be just really real. And it's given me so much confidence, and I've learned so much. And the process was, great. They just take care of me. They treat me like a baby, honestly. They're just like, here's everything you need. What do you need from us? And I'm like, honestly, I just love you guys. So it's been a dream, honestly. The past week, they launched their dancevision.live platform, and I got a package in the mail from Wayne, and it was a microphone, receiver, all the stuff I would need to hook up into the live broadcast and to teach. And interacting with their students has been beautiful, because a lot of the students aren't high-level competitors. I think maybe some are, but a lot of them are social dancers or just, pro-am competitors, and they just need to, they're students. Mm-hmm. And I always have considered myself a student as well. And so just sharing that creative space with people, and it's just been so rewarding. I can't say enough good things about them.
Well, that's probably good news, because we have a hello hope from a Wayne Ang in the chat.
Oh, My people. Hello, beautiful people. I love these guys.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is fantastic. Yeah, no, that is 100% been my experience as a student of Dance Vision as well. Is just the community around it is so lovely, and I feel like Wayne and his team are so good at reaching out to the instructors that know how to communicate at every level. I've been going back through their bronze and their silver and their gold syllabus, especially with the updates to the smooth stuff, because I'm working with students that are pro-am and they're thinking about competing and whatnot. And just the understanding on the part of the teachers that they have chosen to change the way that the information is given at every single level to make sure that if you're a beginner, you're only getting the information that you need at your level, but it's going to build so well when you get to the next step. And when you get to the next step, we're going to add on a little bit more information and then go to gold and then finally to open. You get those benchmarks along the way.
And just to add to that, it's been amazing to watch them evolve, because I tested, my exams were years ago, and now to work with them in a professional capacity, and I hear the conversations they have, like, how can we make this better? How can we make this more beneficial? How can we reach all levels of student and teacher? It's so inspiring, honestly, to work with them. So yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to hear your feedback, because it's similar to my own as a teacher with them. It's been great.
So what was your process like to choose to do strength and conditioning rather than syllabus or choreography?
Right. Well, I had multiple conversations with Wayne, and I always love seeing him call me, because I'm like, what's it going to be? What are we going to do? It's always exciting, because he's a creator, he's a creative person. And so we had a couple conversations, and he just said, well, what are your strengths? What do you like to do? And I was like, well, I'm a professional country dancer, so we could do some social stuff, country, two-step, line dance, whatever. And he's like, okay, and what about this and what about that? And we finally kind of landed on the strength and conditioning, because the more we talked it out and the more he kind of filled the need in his demographic for everything else. My background has always been athletics. I was a gymnast, and growing up in gymnastics, you train hard, maybe 45 minutes on each event, but the rest is drills and strength and conditioning. Your body has to be able, and you cannot do 5 hours a day just knocking it dead and come back the next day. And I've noticed an undervalued area in ballroom dancing in particular of warming up, cooling down. I don't necessarily see a lot of people through various levels treating it like athletics. We treat it like art or something,
Yep.
And so I really just kind of wanted to share with his community this idea of mental health, physical health, when it comes to, being agile and mobile and just creating, because I hear teachers' conversations too in the studio as far as like, okay, we have to be more fluid and more graceful. And their students are like, how?
Yeah.
And a lot of time it's just ability, like I don't necessarily know how, but if I'm able to, or if I have a similar feeling that I've felt in the past, I can connect the dots. And so for me, I wanted to explore that, and I had so much fun doing it. It was really beautiful for me.
Yeah, and I think that's a good reminder, again, to dancers at every level. I know as an instructor, I am the worst about setting aside time at the end of my lesson day to cool down and to stretch and to just recenter before I go home, because after teaching for 5, 6, 7 hours straight, I just want to take off my shoes, grab my bag, and get into my car. And you're right. The times that, in my experience, I've taken 20 minutes before a lesson to stretch and warm up, and I've taken 30 minutes or 40 minutes at the end to cool down and relax, my body has felt so much better the next day. So if you're a student that's listening to this, really do take to heart when your instructors say show up 10 to 15 minutes before your lesson, because we're saying that for a reason. Just do, rumba walks, do some standard line drills, do something to get your body into the mindset of dance. Yeah, we've got a bunch of comments from chat, so I just want to take a quick second.
Yeah.
Wayne has said, Hope is fabulous and she's going to be successful in anything she does.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you, Wayne.
Pat Hansen
Fingers
says,
crossed.
yeah. Pat Hansen says it was a great class. Morgan says, I so agree, Hope. I don't think I've ever had a group class start with a good stretch like I've done in contemporary or other styles. Yeah, our group classes, just speaking from an instructor mindset, I think we go into group classes with a mindset of we've got 45 minutes or 50 minutes to get through information, and we want to fill that class with as much information as possible. So we don't want to lose 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning of class to warm up. We're putting the onus on the students to arrive early and do that for themselves. So maybe as
Right.
instructors, we should switch our mindset when it comes to that.
Yeah. I think just as an instructor point of view too, I think it's so necessary to teach the value, because I think I know personally, I worry like, will my students feel like they got all the time they needed in class today if I spend 15 minutes of a 45-minute class warming up, or 15 minutes warming up and cooling down separately? It's like, but I really do believe that it's up to us to start teaching that. If we want longevity, and the beautiful thing about dancing is we see 91-year-old people dancing. You can dance forever as long as you have the health and the ability for it. So I agree. It's something we kind of have to teach and make a priority.
Definitely, definitely. And then Dance Vision also posts, I know we're all in here, but no pressure. This is a great stream, by the way. Very professional, very clean. Thank you guys so much.
I promise they're all my own words. I'm not being paid to say anything.
No, I think it's a very nice surprise to have as many vocal people in the chat. So we appreciate that. And yes, I try to keep this podcast as like casual as possible when it comes to conversation. So totally off the cuff, totally your own thoughts and opinions when it comes to the topics that we're discussing.
Great job.
So anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about while we've got a little extra time, whether it's from your experiences as a dancer, from your experience as being now an instructor, performer, model, brand ambassador, anything else that you wanted to talk about today?
I didn't really think that far into it. I was excited to talk to you about a little bit about my experience, but I've noticed that that's kind of my personality. Is I have this rough plan of where I want to go, and it's fluid. I now have learned young to allow myself to change, because I was convinced as an 8-year-old, well, I was probably 5, but I was convinced I was going to be an Olympic level gymnast. And I had this plan that my parents had created with me. They helped me kind of like take the appropriate steps. And then in 7th grade, it changed because I changed. And it's been really interesting because we've all been the past couple months in the same situation where life has completely changed. And what happens is when you have change, what it really is opportunity. And I've been really exercising my thought process to be this way, rather than change means it's over. Rather, change means you are free. You can do anything. And I love now my life when I think of it in that frame of mind. Like, you have so many more options. You can always have a new choice. You can always move on into the next thing. And what I love so much about being in the ballroom industry in particular, and in the dance industry, is you have all these options. I mean, look at us here. You're a dancer, a teacher. We've worked in the studio together. I've seen you teach your group classes. And yet here you are on a professional level doing something totally different, but it's totally related. And this is one of the things I love the most. I would love to judge eventually one day. I would love to do some emceeing or some presenting. And every time I get an opportunity within the dance industry, it teaches me how to do something else. If I just make the parallel, teaching taught me how to be a good business person. Opening my own business taught me how to be a good mother. It's like, you can make all these parallels. And so that's been really enlightening and enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it goes back to being open to where life takes you and then making all of those connections along the way. I like the fact that you said, being a dance teacher made you a better business person. That's 100% the topic that we had last week with Michael Johnson. Being a better business owner or being a business owner then made you a better mother. That wraps back around to some of the conversations I was having with Krista several weeks ago about learning to balance life and motherhood and also professional responsibilities and wanting to see that professional growth. I love that. And change can be scary. I think Morgan just put that in the chat. Beautiful words, hope. Change allows growth. It can be scary though. It can be scary to say yes and to take that leap of faith and to shift gears, but it can be so rewarding.
I have this idea where if you are scared of something, do it like right away. And in gymnastics, we call it throwing it. You have to, if you have this scary trick, the idea is like, just throw it. It doesn't have to be pretty, but just like throw yourself into it. And it is terrifying. That's kind of what makes it fun, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
A little adrenaline.
Yeah. Going out onto the unknown and being like, okay, can I catch myself if I do this? Yeah, absolutely. Couple questions from Matthew. Even in something like weightlifting with a personal trainer, the first 15 minutes always has to be stretching and conditioning in his experience. So yeah, perhaps as instructors, we need to take a little bit more responsibility to make that a priority with our students. And then where do you see the future of the industry post-COVID? Is it going to be moving more towards online streaming?
Yeah, it's been really interesting, especially working with Dance Vision, because I think every instructor has always used online tools. And what happens is, like, I've talked to some of my friends, and when they can't be in the studio with their students, we actually we can be a little bit more productive, but maybe not so much more hands-on. And so it puts a lot of the responsibility on the student. And I know also as instructors, it allows us a little bit more freedom with our day. We don't have to be in the studio 8 hours a day to teach lessons. We can kind of structure it. I don't know where this is going to go, to be honest. And it's not that I'm not trying to think about it, but it's not my personality to necessarily, I have no control over it. And so I'm the type of person where if I can't control it, I'll just focus on what I can control. And right now it has been moving to online. And for me, it's really fun as a student because I can take a class from somebody in Russia with 1,000 other people. Mm-hmm. And we all get this information where normally we couldn't all go to that camp. I can't travel to Russia, or, it's 4:00 my time, but it's 11:00 my, somebody else's time or something, so I don't know where it's going to go. I know that dancing is so interactive and I do miss the studio environment. At the same time, though, I love that I have so many more opportunities to learn as a student. It's been really fun for me. So I hope the online continues, even if we still are back in the studio. I personally love taking an online class because as a mom, I don't have to actually go to the class. I can just listen in my pajamas while I drink coffee. And I feel like I pick up information and I'll apply it to practice later, so for me, it's been great.
Yeah, and I would kind of echo that as well. I've really been enjoying the online classes that everyone has been putting out. I've been able to take classes from instructors that I would never get to work with in person at all. So to learn from them in this online format has been so fantastic. But I think there is also that element of our industry is kind of rooted in this hands-on, you are with a partner, you're in a space with another human being. A lot of our instruction is, how does it feel? Let me look and let me move, your shoulders or your head weight, or reposition your arm in a certain way to make it more balanced. And that really can only happen in a traditional studio environment. It's very hard to translate that online. So for me personally, I think once we get the all clear and we can all kind of, life goes back to normal, whenever that might happen, I think you're going to see a continuation of online learning. I think now that we've kind of stepped into this frame and the technology has gotten so much better, I don't think any of us are going to want to go back, but you're always going to have a reason for people to be in the studio and to dance in person and to get instruction in person.
Yes, and I'm so excited for that time. I will say, as a teacher, it's been really interesting because I'm one of those hands-on teachers where I'm like, okay, well, let me try it. Let me see how it feels. I need to
Yep.
kind of feel it. And it's challenged me to be more articulate and to be more thoughtful before I speak. Like, what is this really that I need to say, or what am I missing here? So it's definitely been a very teaching moment for me.
Yep, 100%. And I'm exactly the same way. Like, okay, if I'm working with a couple and something's not working with the lead and follow, I'll be like, all right, let me dance with each of you and feel what's going on. And exactly as you put it, I'm now having to go, okay, tell me, is it a
What you
pressure
feel.
thing? Is it, yeah,
Yeah.
tell me what you are feeling, which is really good
Yeah.
too from a student perspective, because that forces you to
Right.
be a little bit more aware of what's going on with the partnership. So,
And then your partner hears what you're saying. Like, I think a lot of time between the couple, the lady's like, it's not working, or it's not working from the man. And then you're like, okay, well, let me fix it for you. And instead, you're like, okay, well, as the teacher, let me ask you, what are you feeling? And the partner is hearing it. And so the communication changes. It's really interesting process.
definitely, definitely. And actually, along those lines, something that we didn't talk about is when you were competing amateur, you were dancing with your husband. Um,
Yeah.
I have worked with couples that are married and are learning to dance. It can be an interesting experience. So, for you dancing with your partner, who is also your life partner, um, how did you two navigate the communication elements that ballroom dancing has? Or did you find that it worked perfectly every single time?
Yeah, it's interesting because my favorite lessons to teach are the wedding couples. Because you're like, okay, you learn pretty quick, who's in charge and how they communicate and how they handle each other, which
Mm-hmm.
I love. I find it fascinating. Me dancing with my husband, I think it's challenging with working with another person, no matter who it is, first of all, right? Because you have two different mindsets, two different perspectives, two different sets of experience. The communication between Trey and I has always been like, we're both saying orange, but he's pronouncing it different. And I'm like, no, it's pronounced this way. And when I was young, I, I wasted so much time probably just arguing with him over stupid things. And now as an adult and, as a professional now dancing with other partners, and pro-am gave me so much perspective, because it's like, you don't have to, your partner's job is not to make everything good for you. Your job is to make everything good for you, and to be open to communication with your partner. Because doing pro-am, you are responsible
Yep.
for yourself and for them. But in order to make them feel free, you have to be free and in control at the same time. So that was a lesson I wish I had learned before trying to dance with my husband. But the thing with Trey and I was, I had so little experience being a competitor and a ballroom dancer in general. And he had just moved home from New Jersey, where he was training with Gary and Diana McDonald, and he had been at Rogers for a couple of years and dancing since he was a little kid.
Mm.
And so I think our dynamic changed as we got older. We were partners and he had a lot more experience. So I kind of deferred to him. And then as I started to get more experience and get a little bit more of my own opinion, our dynamic changed. And then we got married and that changed. And so it was constant battle of just trying to navigate, you know, what we want and what our priorities are. And he eventually went on, he has a business degree, he has a degree in economics and in finance. And so he eventually moved on to do more of that, where I found kind of a career here, and I'm happy to stay here. But yeah, I don't think it's ever very easy to communicate unless you have a good understanding of a common goal. And as long as you can kind of recenter yourself and come back to that, like, we both want the same thing, right? This is how I think I'm going to achieve it, and taking accountability for myself. And they can come to the table as well and say, I also think in order to achieve it, I have to do this. And then you go together. The hard thing is that unless two people can come together and do that, you have to have a third party, a coach, or maybe even more, a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a parent. It takes a team, right? To be
Mm-hmm.
like, remember, this is the agreement, stick to it, don't get sidetracked, stay focused. So
Oh man, if that
we had
wasn't a
all that.
metaphor.
Yeah.
If that's not a metaphor for every relationship you will have in your life, I don't know what is.
I know. That's just the thing, right? It's a hard working relationship. So yeah.
Any tips or tricks to making a separation between what happens on the dance floor and what happens once you get in the car and go home?
I honestly believe that you shouldn't separate it. I think that if you're walking on the floor with your spouse and your lover, like that's who you're performing with, because I've seen that performance be so authentic because you know the relationship is so, they're showing you their relationship. And I've seen like disputes and things like that on the floor too. And this is what I will say about that. I've been at so many training camps with high level dancers as a competitor among them, as a peer, but then also as a coach watching on the sidelines. And I will be so enraptured with their performance and their beauty. And I'll see them mess up and I don't care.
Right.
But as soon as they mess up and they care, I'm like, oh, dang. And so really, I want dancers and performers to realize that it doesn't ruin anything for me to see it be real. In life, we mess up. There's missed handholds, there's miscommunication. And if you can just be in that moment and just let it be, let it go, pick it back up, apologize, forgive each other. To me, that's so much more enjoyable to watch than this fight for perfection. And like, we can't let anybody see who we really are and that we're human. Like,
Yeah.
Fight on the way home, fight off, like, I don't care. Just stick to your stuff, like stay in it for the love of it. And if you're frustrated, it's okay, but it's not about the other person. It's like, bring it back to yourself. I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
I think that's fantastic. No, yes, absolutely. Everything that you just said.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Authenticity on the floor is everything. And no one cares if you mess up. We care if you tell us that you mess up. So
yeah, with the disappointment, it's like you can be messed up and just like laugh it off.
Absolutely.
It's okay. It's art, like sometimes the biggest mistakes are the most beautiful creative opportunities. It's just like roll with it,
Definitely. I think that's fantastic. Thank you, Hope, so much for being on this morning. It was so lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
If you wish to follow up with Hope after this episode, you can find her at Mrs. Hope Jackson on Instagram. That's where she's posting some amazing content, dance-related, makeup-related, life-related. So go follow her there. Give her some love. Also, keep an eye out for any content that she's creating for Dance Vision, any upcoming online classes. And go check out Aida Dancewear as well. They are closed production is closed in July. Do you know if they're still taking orders for the next 2 days?
I think they'll take all the orders they can up until, they'll still take orders in July, but you won't get anything happening in July. So I know before in the past I've ordered and normally you can get your shoes in 2 days unless it's a custom order. And I ordered it in July and it took like 4 weeks. So you can still be sending orders, just know in July everything is shut down production-wise, shipping-wise, things like that.
Awesome. And then any upcoming online classes that you know of that you're doing for Dance Vision or not at the moment?
Yes, I don't know the exact date, but after the 4th, we do have plans to create more together. So I'm sure I'll be in contact soon with everybody about exactly what to look out for, date and time-wise. They have so many amazing classes right now. Professional and social. So in the meantime, for sure, everybody can check out their website, dancevision.live, for more.
Perfect. Well, I have been your host, Samantha. I'm the owner of Love.Live.Dance. You can find me at lovelivdance.com. If you put a /podcast after that, you can find this and all of the other podcast episodes that I have done. You can follow us on Instagram at Ballroom Chat and on Facebook at Ballroom Chat. Supposedly, there's also a Twitter at Ballroom Chat as well that you can follow if you are still on Twitter. If you are here with us in chat, thank you guys so much. It has been lovely having you. If you are not already a subscriber, please do hit the subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications about every time that we post, and give us a thumbs up if you're willing. It does help us out. Our goal is to get 100 subscribers. I think as of this morning we were at 20, but if we get 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, then we can actually have a custom URL, so it'll be easier for folks to find us on the web. So if you'd be willing to hit that subscribe button, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you again to Hope for being our guest.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate it.
Stay positive, stay safe, and I hope to see you dancing next week. Bye, guys.